So building from what Sipho has said, let's welcome Johan Prinsloo, and he will be talking about how to manage a workshop or training center.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity. As I said, my name is Johan Prinsloo, and I was thinking about the presentation I have to do, and it's around the managing of a workshop. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank each and every teacher on the call for the great job that you guys are doing. Somehow in our lives, all of us have been touched by a teacher. Each and every student that we've got in our workshops have been touched by a teacher. So thank you very much for that. And I want to give you a quote, and I want to start by saying, there's no man as tall as a man bending down to help a child. And that's what we all are doing. My background, and I hate this part of it because we always go into a biography about ourselves. I started my career as a teacher in 1996 at a special needs school, and then Pretoria Technical Boys High School, Mpangeni High School, Umfolozi College, and West Coast College. I'm a qualified artisan by trade, accidentally ended up in teaching, and I've been into teaching ever since. So I'm from AdCorp Holdings. I'm the operations executive for AdCorp Technical Training, and I'm also the business executive for AdCorp Mining. I'm going to skip my agenda. You guys can look at the presentation once it's been presented. AdCorp Technical Training, we've got facilities in Kuruman, we've got facilities in Welkom. We've had a long-standing relationship with Sasol Foundation, upskilling and training teachers through the provinces at our facilities. AdCorp Technical Training is an accredited training center. We're also a decentralized training center and trade testing center, where we offer training for apprenticeships, learnerships, occupational programs, legacy programs, as well as trade testing, both on learnerships and apprenticeships. And the purpose of our training is with a workshop, and it's probably one of the most difficult things to manage a workshop, because we're sitting with all these health and safety acts, we're sitting with safety issues in the workshop, we're sitting with students coming out of the classroom in our workshops, and we have to transfer this knowledge from practical or from theory into practical. They're working with high revolution machines, they're working on lathes, they're working on milling machines, they're working with electricity, three-phase and single-phase electricity. So safety is always a concern. Safety is one of the most important things that we have to attend to. And as we guys, or as you as lecturers know, an accident is an unplanned, uncontrolled event caused by unsafe acts and unsafe conditions. Unplanned and uncontrolled, I don't have to explain that, but it's one of the aspects that is fundamental, and it's the first day that we start with our students, is safety. And we have to comply with our safety. So when we manage a workshop, first week, what we normally do is inductions. In the induction, we cover everything from lunch breaks to where the bathrooms are, all the safety aspects that we expect the learners to do in the workshop. And it's imperative that when we work in our workshops, that we cover our bases within the induction period, because that lays the ground rules for what we are going to do in the workshop. If we are not clear on our expectations, it ends up as a mess in our workshop, because the students will be on their phones, they will be outside, they will not be wearing PPE. We don't have good housekeeping rules at our workshop. And that makes it difficult for a assessor, moderator, and especially in the TVET space, where we've got the NCV guys sharing workshops with the apprenticeships and the learnerships. If the housekeeping rules are not clear, it makes it difficult to manage the workshop. PPE is vital. We have to wear our PPE at all times. And as a teacher, as a lecturer, as a facilitator, assessor, we always have to be prepared. If we are not prepared, we are then caught off guard because our students start asking questions around things that we do not know about. So we have to be qualified subject matter experts providing training in the workshops. If we are not prepared for our students, then we cannot supply or provide answers. If we are not subject matter experts, we then become irrelevant in that student's life, and we really have to make a difference. Within the AdCorp space, AdCorp provides contracting to various industries. So we provide labor, and we provide contractors to the construction, mining, renewable, and oil and gas sectors. So what's currently happening in our industry is that because there's no skills coming through from the high schools and the TVET colleges, we find it difficult to place those learners or those students or those employees from the local community, the local forums. We start finding it difficult to place those guys because we are failing, and I don't want to accuse or make assumptions, but we are failing at providing the necessary skills to industry. And always be prepared for the unexpected. Because there's always an accident that can happen. Teachers have to be in the classroom. They have to be in the workshops. They have to be skilled first aid officers, firefighters, because we do not know if there's at any time an accident happening in the workshop that we have to attend to. So we have to make sure that we are always prepared for the unexpected. Know your safety rules, know your first aid, know your firefighting, know your escape routes, know your emergency assembly points. Please be prepared for the unexpected. The do's and don'ts in a workshop. First of all, PPE. You have to wear your PPE at all times. Good housekeeping. The workshops that I've managed before and the workshops that I'm managing currently, we do clean the workshops each and every day. You don't want to end up in an environment that is unhealthy and that is dirty. We all want to work on a clean environment, clean machines. We want to make sure that when we touch the tools, that they are not full of oil, they are not dirty. Those tools can be used and utilized right through the training process. We don't want to break the tools. You cannot allow students to smoke in your workshop. You cannot allow students not to clean up when there's been a chemical spill. This happens in industry. So if there's a chemical spill or anything happens in our industry, at our workplaces, we need to attend to that. We have to prepare our students for those circumstances, because if we do not, it becomes a high-risk working environment for all of us. Not only for us, but for our clients as well. And the one thing is that it's vital that you understand that you are preparing the skills and the necessary skills for us in industry to use. If those skills and rules and regulations and safety precautions are not instilled at school level, it becomes difficult and high risk for industry then to start managing that. And I can assure you, I've walked into Sasol plates this morning. The first thing I had to do was a safety induction and around the walkways. It's vital that we instill that behavior at school level. Cell phones, we are in an era where everybody's on their phones, and I'm standing on the podium and I'm looking at the guys at the back and they're all on their phones. You cannot allow that in a workshop. And you walk into a classroom, and the previous speaker was around Google, and everybody's on Facebook and everybody's on WhatsApp and everybody's on their social media platforms. in the workshop we're working with machines turning at 15,000 RPM. You cannot lose focus. That one split second can cost you a finger. Been there, done that. So please pay attention. This is probably one of the most difficult topics to talk about, and that's around the learnerships and the relationships around our learners and our students. The student, the learner, the guy sitting in your classroom is your client, and you need to treat him as your client. Because if the student or the learner is not there, then we become irrelevant, because that's what we do. And we have to speak and have an open and honest relationship with our students. Take the time in the afternoon, take the time during the week to spend a half an hour with the students and just speak to the students. And we have to also accept, as teachers and educators and facilitators, and even as parents, we have to accept that there's a 360 assessment process. Because we assess, we test our students. The students have also got, in my personal opinion, the students also have the right to assess us as teachers, as educators, as facilitators. Are we doing a good job? Is there something that we can change? Is there something that we can do differently? We might have students that do not understand if we show them how to sharpen a drill. Maybe we have to change our method. Maybe we need to spend some more time in the classroom. Maybe we need to show the student a different method. We always have to be adaptive to what we provide and what we do with our students. The student is your client. He's the customer. And if we change that, and I think it's a behavioral change, if we change that and we accept the negative with the positive when we're working with our students, our achievements and what we achieve with those students, the outcome will be far greater. Attendance and sign daily. Our attendance registers, and you guys sitting, especially in the workshops, the schools, in classroom, we need to know who's in our classroom. Attendance registers, when we work on learnerships and apprenticeships, attendance registers has to be submitted to the CETAs for validation that the students were actually in our classrooms, the same as the workshop, the same as our workplace. So when the students spend 27 weeks in the theoretical component, there's attendance registers. When they go out to the workplace for 53 weeks, there's attendance registers. Most of us are moving to biometrics now, so there's fingerprints where we can import or export information from an ERS system. Please align all your policies to the POPI Act. You cannot share all information, telephone numbers and personal information. And also ATT and our sister company Synergy, as you can see on the bottom of the logo, we are both ISO accredited, so we have to comply with all the ISO legislation and requirements for ISO. Allow the learners to feel at ease. I think one of the most difficult things is that for a teacher or a lecturer, a facilitator, and even as a parent, sometimes our learners, our kids, they don't want to talk to us. They don't feel comfortable to share any information with us. They don't want to share personal information with you, maybe as a parent. Our students are sitting in exactly the same position, is that we put them in a position where they do not feel at ease to share information and ask questions. Once you disconnect it from your learners, in the workshop, working on the machines, and there's not a connection to your students where they are not feeling comfortable to ask questions, you'll probably spend 150% more time getting your training material, your outcome across to those students, because simply they do not feel comfortable or they don't have the comfort to ask you those questions. Transparency is rules. Transparency is vital because we have to tell our students exactly what we expect from them. Also, if they failed at something or there's something that you do not feel comfortable with, we have to be transparent as educators and teachers to share that information with them, to say, listen, we've got a problem here. And some of the times there's personal issues at home. They find a difficult time at home. And we have to show some empathy and respect to their circumstances at home as well, because it does have an impact with the students at classroom. And it can be, and we're sitting with the social issues where it can be that you've got a student in classroom that's hungry. So we have to be transparent. We have to have honest, open discussions with our students. Students have to participate in classroom. And one of the most difficult things I found as an educator, as a teacher, was respect. Because sometimes there's a disrespectful student in your classroom that has a negative effect on your classroom and your classroom environment. But respect goes both ways. We cannot expect our students and our learners to respect us if we do not show the same respect to them. And encourage the learners to think big. People ask me what I do. I say to them, I'm a qualified artisan by trade. I'm a qualified fitter and turner. That's my trade. But I'm also the executive of 2 of the companies within the AdCorp group. I'm also a teacher. I'm also an educator. I'm an assessor and I'm a moderator. Encourage your students to think big. They do not have to be artisans. They do not have to be engineers. But encourage your students to think big. If you just look around you, and I'm looking around the room I'm in, everything in the room here has been touched somewhere. Somehow the room has been touched by an engineer. It's been touched by an artisan. There's no reason. The country has been built by artisans, bricklayers, carpenters, fitters and turners, electricians. An artisan has probably touched every component in your life that you're going to touch today has been touched by an artisan. So encourage your learners to think big. Assess goal completion. When we do our assessments, please make sure that you are clear around what your expectations, around the assessments that you're going to conduct. If it's a trade test, if it's a test that you've prepared for the students, please make sure that you prepare your students for exactly what you expect from them. Self-paced learning, one of the things is that we don't all learn at the same time. It might take a student a day or half day longer. It might take him a week longer. We have to accommodate those students to make sure that they also get to the end result. And provide support and open discussions and transparency to our students. You have to record all the conversations, you have to record your assessments, you have to record your student interventions. If there's any discussion that takes place, please make sure that you record that, because that forms part of your portfolio of evidence. Once we've completed the portfolio of evidence, everything needs to be dated, everything needs to be signed correctly by both the assessor, the moderator, and the student. Please make sure you file, and the student have also filed all their assessments, all their workbooks correctly, because that needs to go to the CETAs once we need to apply for the serial numbers to do the trade testing. Please also make sure that you keep copies and you file all the POEs, because it might be, we've had an incident in one of our companies a while back where we had an accident on site. The client came back to us as a training center, and we had to provide information on exactly what training we've done with that learner. We had to go back to the files and go and show as evidence what we've done. Always provide feedback to the learner. If there's something that you've not been happy with, or the learner has not been found competent in one of the tasks, please provide feedback so the learner can go and make adjustments or go and learn the outcomes and come back for the reassessment. There's always room for improvement. Students can always do a little bit better. we as teachers, educators, and facilitators, we can always do a little bit better. And I thank you. I think I've covered everything. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Johan. If you can please just join me here while you make your way. I have a question here. There's a question from Ridvan, and he says, "Hi, can someone please provide me with the name of the doctor and contact details of the lecturer who lectures at the PGCEEGD and civil courses?" I think he's referring to Dr. Mjali. So if you go to your app and you go to the main menu, it says live stream and then speakers. If you press that, he is speaker number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Dr. Thokozani Mjali. I think that would answer your question. So you said something very interesting. Thank you so much for that presentation, that you were a teacher at Mpangeni High School. How was that experience like?
I ended up in teaching by accident.
Okay.
And I think personal experience, I think God sometimes works in mysterious ways. And you come, you know, I've completed my apprenticeship, I've done my trade testing, I was a qualified artisan. And the nice thing about qualified artisans is that we could enter the education field as specialized educators, as subject matter experts. And I had a company at that stage, and I was doing some work at a school, and the headmaster approached me. And he said, "Listen, we're looking for a technical teacher. Are you willing to come and assist us?" And it was purely by accident, and I had a discussion with my wife. I said, "Listen, I think I'm going into teaching." And that was in 1996. And I started as a teacher, as I said, at the special needs school. And I then got up, and God sometimes have a mysterious way of how he works. So I met my wife when I was in matric in Richards Bay. So when I got offered a job in Mpangeni High School, it becomes a full circle. And it was a very interesting time, but it was a wonderful time getting back into it, or in teaching. And managing the workshops, and you know, it's a full circle. So it was really a wonderful experience. And from Mpangeni High School, I went to Umfolozi College, into the TVET space. And it's just been such a great journey. And if you look at a personal development, and that's one of the points I wanted to make, to say that you don't have to be an artisan. You don't have to be a bricklayer. The one thing is that you can start as a bricklayer, but you can end up at owning a construction company. You can start as an electrician, complete your electrical trade test, open your own business, and start as an electrical contract and supply. The one thing I think that we're missing as educators and facilitators is the difference that we can make in our local community and our local environment, because entrepreneurship becomes vital to the discussion, is to say that we have to prepare our students for the future. And I was privileged to spend, and I've been in corporate I joined corporate in 2006, and I left corporate in 2016, and I had the privilege to spend a year at West Coast College in Cape Town, at the Atlantis campus, which was a wonderful experience. And the thing is with our artisans is that, you know, and I call it breadbasket training. So we do breadbasket training within the AdCorp group, and we go to the community, we teach how to make bricks, how to grow, do agriculture, how to grow vegetables, how to do substantial farming. But then there's a third arm to it, and you sell it back to the spaza shop, you sell it back to the mine. And that's the one thing I think that we miss a bit, is that we don't spend the time on entrepreneurship. We have to show our kids, we have to teach them how to do quotations. You know, how much sand and cement do I need to order to make 100 bricks? You know, I can sell them back. And then once we start transforming our communities, once we start making that difference, and it takes one act of human kindness, one act of random kindness. It just takes one thing to change it and to change your life. There's 65 million people in South Africa. There's a handful of educators and teachers. And we've all been touched by a teacher. Somehow, somewhere, we've all been touched by a teacher. The power that an educator and a facilitator and a teacher has is underestimated. It's undervalued. And I think when teachers, teachers are taking a beating. But when teachers, when they understand the difference in the power that they've got to make a difference, and it's sometimes difficult situations that teachers are working under. And I've got so much empathy and sympathy with that, but the power that comes with that we can really make a difference and make a change in where we found ourselves. We're sitting with a 35 to 40% unemployment rate. We have to start somewhere, and it takes one act of random kindness.
So if you listened carefully to my first question, and the reason why I asked you how your experience was at Mpangeni High, one, it's because I'm from there. My parents still stay there. Two, I had friends that went to Mpangeni High. I went to Mpangeni Prep. So hence I asked you that. But you touched on something that I haven't heard any other speaker mention, which is the entrepreneurial side of artisans and how to manage a company or a business. Do you think, or how important is that aspect of an artisan understanding the concept of entrepreneurship in what they want to do if they want to be self-employed?
We create our own opportunities. And that's what we do as artisans. And I think that's the wonderful thing about technical training. And I'm talking about all aspects, from our wet trades as a bricklayer, a carpenter, a plumber, an electrician, a fitter and turner, a welder, a boiler maker. All aspects somehow, somewhere relates to starting your own business, starting your own, engineering workshops has been set up by an artisan, by an engineer. So it's vital that we uplift and encourage, and that was the one slide I had in there, is to think big. That's the one thing, is that think big, because you don't have to be a bricklayer. You can own a construction company. You don't have to be an electrician. You can be an electrical contractor. You don't have to be a welder. And at one stage, I think most of us have started making burglar guards and, building gates and things like that. Just imagine you as a welder starting up your own company, and you start securing your community by burglar guards and gates and fencing and those type of things. Really think big, because the only thing that holds you back is yourself as a person.
Do vocational institutions offer entrepreneurship as a subject?
I will probably not be able to answer you that. I hope they do. But I think as facilitators, as teachers, as educators, that's one of the discussions, and open and transparent and honest discussions we have to have with our students. From ground level is to have those discussions to say, guys, think big. This is what you can be. We're not all going to end up at university. We're not all going to end up in a TVET college. We're not all going to end up at Technikon. But it doesn't stop you.
True. How important do you think mentorship is when it comes to this, though? Because from where I'm sitting, I think it is quite important, whether you're a bricklayer or not. But given the fact that if you're starting up your own thing, you want to learn from someone who has the experience.
Yeah, so coaching and mentoring is, and that's what we do on a daily basis. It's coaching and mentoring. And it's not only coaching and mentoring to our students, it's coaching and mentoring and upskilling our teachers. It's coaching and mentoring at workplaces. You go into the corporate environment, there's coaching and mentoring programs. And I think maybe, I'm talking to the wrong audience, because we have to go to our kids, and there's somebody in your life that touched your life. And approach that person and say, can you please assist me? I need some help here. And we always, sometimes we all do need some help. And It goes both ways. There's coaching and mentoring, and we've really been privileged as AdCorp, as a group. I think we've been working with Sasol for the last 20 years in developing the technical teachers. And the teachers need support. They need the coaching, they need the mentoring. Is how do we get to that point where we start engaging between education and private sector to see how we can connect the two? Because sometimes there's a disconnect between the TVET college and industry. You know, we need electricians. The TVET college maybe only supplies bricklayers. So sometimes there's a disconnect, and I think corporate and industry can learn a lot from education, and I think education can learn a lot from industry. Is how we connect those two, then to coach and mentor to say these are our needs and our requirements. This is what we need from you as the education department or as the local TVET college. This is what we need from you, and connect those two. And I think this is the nice thing about the platform we hosted last year at AdCorp, is that it's open, honest, frank discussions to say, how can we assist? And I have to compliment Sasol on the initiative to say, we want to start connecting those dots. And it's nice to go and sit and have a discussion with Dr. Cynthia, and we've been here early this morning, and you start having discussions to say how we can connect those dots. On Saturday, there's a skills competition. So we've got provincial skills competitions for the kids at the school. And then there's provincials, and then there's nationals. So there was a skills competition. The finals, I think, was on Saturday in Bloemfontein. It's how we take those youngsters, the number ones and the number twos and the number threes from those skills competition, and really bring them into industry. And how can we partner to say, what can we do with those top achievers and bring them in industry and develop and enhance those skills to make a difference? Because they're the future engineers, they're the future construction company owners, they're the future engineering company owners. How do we enhance, develop, and nurture those skills to address our unemployment, because that money comes directly back to the community?
There's a question that was posed yesterday, and it was along the lines of, who makes a better teacher to learners? An artisan that's going to teach learners, or a teacher who only has the theoretical background of what they're going to be teaching? What's your answer to that?
So there's two components. I can speak from personal experience, but I can also say that the most challenging part was spending time at the TVET college in the workshop. I'm a qualified artisan by trade. I'm a qualified fitter and turner. You bring the NCV students from the classroom, and it's brought into the classroom by a teacher. It's not an artisan, it's a teacher. The teacher is not sufficiently skilled or upskilled. They don't know how the machines work. So there's two components to the discussions, and maybe my answer is twofold as well, is to say that a subject matter expert is an artisan. If we talk about practical skills in the workshop, we've completed apprenticeships, we've completed our apprenticeships, we've done our trade tests, we've done our assessors. You can only be an assessor 3 years after starting in your training. So there's a whole process to become an assessor and a moderator and a trade test officer. So if you talk about practicals, your subject matter expert, your qualified artisan is your best teacher, because they come with industry experience. They know the shortcuts. They know what to talk about. The disconnect is between the artisan and the teacher. And I think there's an opportunity for the artisan to upskill the teacher. So the guys in the workshop, bring your NCV lecturers into the TVET college and show them the ropes. Show them how to work the machines. And upskill, because it makes life, for you as an artisan, for you, the guy in the workshop, it makes life easier if you upskill your NCV teachers. If you talk purely academics, then your teacher is the guy. But you need industry experience, and I've listened to the previous speaker on Google. and you've got a lawyer sitting up in Google. But that comes with experience. You know, you don't sit in that position without experience. You have to go, and sometimes we need to go back to ground level. And I had a discussion yesterday with one of our clients. Once a month, they have to go back to the floor. I think sometimes we all have to go back to the floor. We have to go back into industry. Go and see, last week was the mining expo at Nasrec. You have to attend the mining expo to go and see what's the new technology, you know, what's the new. And it's amazing on what's going on in the mining sector now. You know, electronics, and we talk about Google and machines running on GPSs and things. So it's exciting times.
One of my last few questions is, any challenges that artisans face currently?
I don't think artisans are having any challenges. I think what's the challenge now is that we cannot supply. We don't have artisans. In our industry, that's what we do. We supply artisans to various sectors within mining and construction and engineering and manufacturing. We can't find artisans. 65% of trade test certificates that we receive in industry is fraudulent. So if you start talking about artisans, I don't think you're having a problem with your artisans. We are finding a skill shortage because South Africa at one stage produced the best artisans in the world. So the artisans are working overseas. They're working in other countries. So we need to nurture our technical skills. They're the guys building the buildings. They're the guys coming to clean your toilet when it's clogged. You know, we have to nurture those skills. So artisans, I think, the perception that was always done, you know, you become an artisan because you can't make it in the university, or you can't make it at a normal school. You know, you go to a technical school. I think that perception is starting to dwindle away now, because artisans are becoming such high demand skills in our country. Nationally, you know, if you go to Europe, you go to America, they can't find truck drivers. So, you know, it's probably good times to be an artisan in engineering field.
Johan, thank you so much for your time. That was Johan Prinsloo telling us about how to manage a workshop or a training center.